talk about today, and then, of course, we're going to take your questions. First, I'll talk about COVID. Second thing I'm going to talk about is our federal partners. It's a program that we rolled out yesterday. I'll tell you a little bit about that. The third thing I'm going to talk about is an event that's happening this weekend in Florida, but it's the commissioning of the 7th Uss St Louis, LCS 19. So I'll talk a minute about that. And then I'm going to mention that there's a couple of city job opportunities if anybody's looking for a job. So, and then we're going to take your questions. Beginning with COVID. So yesterday was an interesting day. The city reported 145 new cases. Now that's a very high number, but it's important to understand that of those new cases, 71 were actually cases within the last week. And the rest of the cases, so roughly half of the cases, were from as far back as June. And 5 cases maybe in June, and then close to 70 cases, 1 on the 10th of July, 4 on the 12th, 1 on the 13th, and 5 on the 14th. So there's no one big day, but it's just a smattering of cases throughout July. And this is all part of the issue that we have been talking about with regard to reporting. So when I saw the number 145, I was like, oh goodness. But you got to look a little deeper there. There's some good news on the hospitalization front. And this, hospital numbers are 2 days old. 266 people were currently hospitalized with confirmed COVID. 70 people were in the ICU, and that has, this past week, it's been 72, 70, 69, 70. So that's right around 70 every day. 39 people were on ventilators. 31 people were admitted to the hospital, and 60 people were discharged. So that's good. The hospital numbers are still higher than we'd like, and they're floating really for the last, I'm looking here, since the 20th of July, let's say. So that's more than 2 weeks. The hospital numbers currently hospitalized with confirmed COVID have been bouncing around 260, 250, 245, 290, 287, and yesterday 266. So that number's floating a bit. We know that we're watching these numbers extremely carefully, because we do know that we had the peak, and then we were able, through our 8-week shutdown, which was very painful for everybody. It started on March the 23rd and went through May the 18th, I think was the date. We were able to really reduce the spread, but of course everyone was staying home, no one was going to work. I shouldn't say no one. The people that were going to work were essential workers: police, fire, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, EMS. But now that we have opened back up a bit, and as frankly I think people have just let their guard down a little, and over a month ago, it was on July the 3rd, we put a mandatory mask order in place. Everybody who is going outside of their house needs to be wearing a mask. If you're inside, it is like inside a store or restaurant, it is mandatory. If you're outside taking a walk in the park, you need to have your mask with you so that you can put it on if you come within 6 feet of someone else. So that is really important, and I know that it's a pain in the neck, but it's really not that big of a deal, and we are seeing these numbers rise. And we are considering, that we've pulled back some already on the economy. We've reduced the capacity percentages already. We're considering reducing them again. And we have begun an enforcement program with regard to some of our businesses that were not really taking the mask and the social distancing as seriously as we thought they should. Now I'm going to say this, that I don't think there's any business out there that was not trying, but some businesses are harder than others. And frankly, the businesses don't want to be the mask police, and I don't blame them. But, you know, if we're going to be open, we all got to be in this together. You got to be doing your part. Businesses have to be doing their part. So we are definitely not out of the woods yet on this COVID. We've got to continue to restrict ourselves so that we can stay open and people can stay in their jobs. Because we know that many people are having a really tough time paying their rent, people that have been laid off, people have had their hours cut back. That is causes a tremendous amount of stress and pain and difficulty for people. And on Wednesday, we talked about our rental and mortgage assistance, which is still in place. We're working with over a dozen agencies to help people. We're working with the courts. There has been a new stay put in place by Judge Burleson, which will stay evictions that are related to not being able to pay your rent because of COVID. That are related to that. Those evictions are stayed until the 1st of September. I get it, it's what, the 7th of August. That's not very long, but we're working to try to help those folks that might be in the eviction process, help those folks that may be headed in that direction as a result of not being able to pay their rent. We also have mediation and legal services for people to help. So, at any rate, that's we're working very hard on that right now. We allocated $5.4 million to assist with that mortgage and rental assistance. And I'm sure we'll spend every penny of it. And frankly, right now, we're looking for some additional funding. We've requested some additional funding through the state. We have a little bit of contingency left in our first CARES Act money, and likely at the next E&A meeting, we will likely request E&A to allocate a little more of that towards the mortgage and rental assistance, because that seems to be where the real need is right now. You know, we did $4 million in grants to small businesses, businesses with 2, 3, 5, 10, up to 25 employees. We did that. All of those grants have been paid out by now. You know, we put $3 million into helping people with utilities, gotta keep the electric on. We've had really beautiful weather this week. It's almost like we don't live in St. Louis, but the hot weather's coming back. People have got to be able to get their air conditioner turned on. So that's just a little bit of a recap of major efforts for the CARES Act money. And then I guess the last thing is we've spent, and we are spending, continue to spend millions of dollars, probably close to $5 million on homeless services. So we're on the rental assistance side, we're trying to prevent homelessness for people that are already homeless. We're trying to get them back into shelter, emergency shelter, and preferably apartments. So all that is a big continuum of social services. And that says further that please wear your mask so we don't have to shut down more businesses so people can keep their jobs. Next thing I want to talk about here is yesterday we had a big announcement, and it was really led by U.S. Attorney Jeff Jensen, and through the U.S. Attorney's Office and our federal partners. So our federal partners are U.S. Marshals, FBI, ATF, all of our federal partners who we work with every day. And when I say we, it's the police department, SLMPD, works with every day on all kinds of initiatives and projects. But yesterday we announced that there would be 50 additional federal partners come to work with St. Louis Police Department to help us solve crimes, to help us follow up on shot spotter calls, to help us deter crimes, and make arrests in cases that in homicides and other serious violent cases that have already occurred. I want to mention here that these are all individuals who are going to be working in collaboration and coordination with our police department. We have had, I think you know this, 159 homicides so far this year. This is a third more than where we were last year at this time. But even more concerning is that during June, we had 32 homicides. During July, we had 53 homicides. So you can see that this is escalating. So we've had 85 of the 159 were in the last 2 months. Very concerning. A lot of stress out there, a lot of pain out there, a lot of people settling their differences, and a lot of retaliation, most likely. So these 50 additional individuals are strictly to help our police department. The families of the individuals, the families and the friends of the individuals who have been victims of crime deserve to have those perpetrators held accountable. And so we believe that our federal partners will help us with that. You all know, I'm sure, that the City of St. Louis Police Department is short 142 officers, and we have been working diligently to hire additional officers. And so these 50 officers from the various federal agencies will be very helpful. Federal and state, I should mention. Highway Patrol is also great help in this. So that we announced yesterday. What it is not any federal folks to help with protests. It's not about protesting. It's not about protecting federal property. It is about working to help us fight and solve the violence in our community solely. So that was yesterday. Third thing, it's kind of on a happy note, I think. So some of you may remember that a couple of years ago, it was announced that the Navy would commission a new ship and name it USS St. Louis. It's a littoral combat ship, therefore LCS 19. It's going to be commissioned tomorrow. It's going to be commissioned at Naval Station Mayport, which is in Jacksonville, Florida. The ceremony is virtual, like everything today, right? Everything's virtual. So the ceremony is virtual. But you will be able to watch, for those of you that are interested, and it's pretty fascinating, I have to tell you. You will be able to watch the live streaming of the event, and we're gonna post a link to that in the comments on this post for those of you that are interested. I just previewed. It's about a 15-minute video. I'm not at liberty to share that with you yet, but I just previewed it a couple of hours ago, and I have to tell you, it's very moving. You'll have some goosebumps. And you know, this is the 7th ship that's been named USS St. Louis. And one of the USS St. Louis ships was in Pearl Harbor, and it's called Lucky Lou. And it's called Lucky Lou because it took a lot of incoming fire, but it was still able to navigate to safety. And the crew did a fabulous job. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, watch the live streaming tomorrow, and I'm sure it'll be available after that. It's at 9 o'clock in the morning Central Time, 10 o'clock in Florida, so 9 o'clock here Central Time, and we'll post the link. This is, if you can see this, I'll hold this up. So this is the crest of the ship that was designed by the Navy. And you can see it's, UCS St. Louis, LCS 19, and there's the St. Louis flag, the red flag, is included in this crest. You probably know the St. Louis flag won an international competition just a month or 2 months ago as the best flag, and so obviously, yeah, that's the right word, obviously, the best flag. So that's the third thing I want to talk about, and the last thing I want to say is that the City of St. Louis, for the most part, we've had a hiring freeze on for a while, but we need truck drivers. We need people with CDL licenses, to drive the big orange trucks. So I know there are a lot of people out of work today, and I know there are folks that are probably looking for jobs, and maybe you've assumed there aren't any jobs, but there are. So we are actively recruiting for people with CDL licenses. City of St. Louis is a good place to work. It's, paid a good wage, health insurance, 457, retirement plan, all the things that a good employer has. So if you know someone who's looking for a job who has a CDL license, or who can get one, please go on our website. I think we're going to post a link to the personnel website, and we need people to drive our trucks, whether it's a paving truck, a dump truck, the big orange trucks. So I hope we can persuade a half a dozen people to at least to apply, that we're able to hire for that, because we're in a little bit of dire straits right now for our truck drivers. So those are the subjects I wanted to cover today. Do we have any questions?
A few questions. Carlos's question is, what is a realistic time frame for the city to decide whether or not we will be shutting down again?
Carlos, I'm going to tell you, we're going to do everything in our power not to shut down again. And I guess by shutting down, maybe you mean a complete stay-at-home order. We're going to do everything in our power not to do that. But actually, it's everything that you can do that's in your power not to do it, which is stay socially distanced, keep your circle small, wear a mask. So we're really going to try hard not to do that, and we're trying hard not to shut down businesses, whole classes of businesses. And frankly, a realistic time frame, we have to look at these numbers every day. We got to look at the hospital numbers every day. So I can't really answer that question.
Speaking of hiring and COVID-19 altogether, is the city still looking for contact tracers who might be able to help the health department? That's a question from Dean.
Hi, Dean. Yes, we are. I know we've hired some, but I'm sure that there are still a few positions available. So if so, this link that we're going to post, or maybe we already did post while I was speaking to you, to try to hire truck drivers, will work for, you can find your way to the health department also. There are job openings there.
So our other questions so far, Mayor, have to do with our federal partnership.
Okay.
So a couple of questions asking about what role federal agents will have in the city of St. Louis. Is this like Portland?
No, not like Portland. And I know that there's a lot of talk about that. But our federal partners are already here in St. Louis working with our police department. We're just getting 50 additional officers, federal officers, to work with the police department. As I mentioned previously, this has nothing to do with protests. It has nothing to do with protecting federal property. This has everything to do with helping our police department to respond to violence, respond to calls, 911 calls, helping our police department to track down shot spotter, have very targeted enforcement for violent offenders and gang members. And yesterday when we announced this, I think you may have heard that we already, there had already been a few arrests made, but this is a very targeted enforcement on people, on individuals that are believed to be very active, violent perpetrators of crime. Not protests, not protecting federal properties, nobody wearing military fatigues, none of that.
Couple of questions asking, in addition to that, can you speak to some of the other anti-crime initiatives like Cure Violence that are also happening parallel to
Yes.
Enforcement measures?
So, there's the prevention side of crime, which is extremely important, and then there's the law enforcement side, or the enforcement side. What we've been talking about is the enforcement side. On the prevention side, mental health programs, summer jobs for kids. And this summer, the summer jobs, because of COVID, has been very tough. We've had some virtual training. Recreation programs for young people, Cure Violence. One other thing popped into my head that now it left again. But those are very important programs that are on the prevention side of crime, along with the human services programs, like keeping people in their apartments, keeping folks' utilities on. I mean, the stressors that we have right now, and I know many people, and many of you are feeling like this too, a bit, worn out perhaps by this long COVID situation. But I try to think about, look back to your grandparents who went through depressions, who went through world wars, folks who went through many wars, of course, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, etc. So, I mean, the stressors here, this is COVID, and this is at home on our territory, and it's somewhat, it's not as much in our control as we would like for it to be. And so people are under a lot of stress. So there's the prevention side as well as the enforcement side.
Is there a question from Chelsea? Is there a discussed time, or has there been a discussed timeline about how long this operation or expansion of operation will continue in St. Louis?
So Chelsea, that is something that we don't know. And honestly, it's something that we are not at liberty, if we did know it, and we don't right now, but we're not at liberty to say. Because this is, an operation where we're trying to arrest people. So will it be 60 days, 90 days, till the end of the year? All of those are options. We don't know at this point.
Question back to COVID. Question from Robbie. Quite a few cities have put restrictions on visitors coming and going. Are tourists welcome to visit the city of St. Louis?
Robbie, tourists are welcome to visit the city of St. Louis. And, there are still a number of things to do here. And I was meeting with a hotel operator just yesterday, and there are plenty of hotel rooms available, I will tell you that. And so for anyone who might be watching that is looking for a weekend getaway, looking to come to St. Louis, stay in a hotel for a couple of days, go to the zoo, botanical gardens, the Arch, those places are still open now, and they're not crowded, and they can't be crowded. I mean, we don't allow that. You have to do social distancing, but still, a lot of good things to do in St. Louis, especially. A lot of folks want to drive this year to have a little getaway. So yes, visitors are still welcome in St. Louis, and frankly, they're a very important part of our economy.
Question from Rob, Mayor, about bars in the city. Can you speak to some of the legal action taken against the city about closing some of the bars and the steps the city is taking to help them reopen safely and responsibly?
So Rob, you probably know, if you're a regular viewer here, that not quite 2 weeks ago, it was on a Monday, the city moved to close 4 large nightclubs that had not been social distancing and wearing their masks as much as they should, as much as we felt they should, and that was putting people's health in a people were putting their own health, let's say it like that, as well, in a very precarious situation. So what we've done since last Monday, so not quite 2 weeks, we have visited with all of those nightclub owners. Our health department staff has trained their staff in infection control, in what has to be done, had several training sessions with those individuals, and they had a 2-week closure. So Monday will be the end of the 2 weeks. I think 1 or 2 of them might be operating for brunch this weekend, but that's a bit up in the air. I just spoke with Dr. Eccles just a few minutes before, I began chatting with you all. And so that a little bit of that is up in the air, but it's moving quickly. But they've all had training. Any business that feels like they need additional training or that they don't know what to do, certainly we're available to help them.
A few more questions, Mayor. We have a question from Tim about police residency, which you've been supportive of in Jefferson City. His question, though, is can you also ask MoLeg to repeal the 2017 open carry law so that our young kids are not legally able to walk down the street with assault rifles?
So Tim, I am so with you on that. I have been active in supporting an effort to lift the residency requirement, repeal the residency requirement for public safety, police, fire, EMS officers. Frankly, it'd be fine with me for all city employees. Right now, we're very short of police officers, though. Last night I think it was about 10 or 10:30, the Missouri Senate did pass the bill which would allow any police officer who police department employee who currently works for the city or anyone hired for the next 3 years to permanently be able to live wherever they want within an hour of St. Louis, within an hour of their job. Now, that's not final yet because it has to go to the House. On Monday, we're expecting a hearing in the House. It might take a few days, but we're hopeful that we'll get some lifting of the residency requirement, because it's very difficult when you're only 62 square miles and when no one else literally in the region has a residency requirement. It puts us at a competitive disadvantage. In fact, the other police departments, if you're looking for a job as a police officer, many of those, haven't looked at them this week, but over time I have looked at many of them. At the top of their personnel page where you would apply, they're like, no residency requirement. I can't blame them, because they're trying to hire officers as well. So we're just trying to get a level playing field here. There was a second part to that question. What was it?
Oh, Tim's question was about
Residency.
But asking for you
Oh,
to
yeah.
have MOLEG
Sorry.
repeal open
Sorry, I
carry.
forgot the second part. Some of you who know me know that I really believe that for folks who want to carry their guns, that they should have a permit. They should have a little bit of training. It used to be required that anyone carrying a gun in the state had to have a permit and had to have 8 hours of training. The 1st of January of 2017, is that right, 17? Yeah, so that law was repealed, and so currently no one has to have a permit, no one has to have any training. Even children are allowed to carry guns, and you can carry them either concealed or open carry, meaning just walk down the street with them. So Missouri has extremely lax, I would call it, gun laws. I've spoken with many legislators about this, and quite honestly, I think there is between slim and none chance of passing anything significant in the way of changing that. And Quentin Lucas, the mayor in Kansas City, and I have both joined hands on this, but it's not going anywhere.
We did get a question about the status of the outside independent review of the police department that you announced a couple of weeks ago, and
Yep.
what the status of that is.
It's ongoing. It started maybe 3 weeks ago, and it's probably a 6-month study. We'll have some report with some feedback along the way, but it's still in the early stages of reviewing policies, of chatting with people and that sort of thing. So nothing to report on that just yet.
Question from Jade. This is back to your comment about gun laws in Missouri. Can't the city itself enforce more strict gun laws than what are on the books? Like we're enforcing, strict social distancing.
I'm with you on that too, Jade. I've tried that, but some years ago, maybe, 6 or 8, the Missouri passed a law that actually, we call it a preemption law, meaning that state law preempts the localities, in this case, on this issue, from having anything more restrictive than the state law. We have preemption laws on several things in Missouri. Guns, cold medicine, like Sudafed, that sort of thing. Plastic bags.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage. So, unfortunately, no, we can't have a more restrictive gun law here in St. Louis. Now, we've done a few things. This past year, we restricted guns in parks. You can't have guns in city parks, either concealed or open carry. But really small things.
It's 2:30.
It's 2:30. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate you.